Revealed. Billionaire's wife. Sentenced to 3 years for refusing a miscarriage lie. An amazing transformation. Jenna Miller pressed her fingers against the steaming countertop of the Maplewood diner, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pie. Laughter echoed around her, but she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her father had just lost his job, and eviction notices had begun to pile up on their kitchen table like threats. Each day was a battle to make ends meet, and her dreams felt more like fading photographs than real possibilities. Then, the news broke. Across the diner, a television flickered the report like a beacon. Lillian Harper, the glamorous wife of billionaire developer Jonathan Harper, was sentenced to 3 years for standing up against a lie, a miscarriage that would have protected her husband. The boldness of Lillian's choice hit Jenna like a lightning bolt. In this tiny town, people whispered about Lillian's courage. Did they even understand it? As a waitress pouring coffee, every clink of the cup told Jenna that she yearned for that very defiance. "I can't believe she'd throw away everything for honesty," a patron exclaimed, shaking her head in disbelief. Others nodded, their eyes wide with admiration for the woman who refused to stay silent. Jenna's heart swelled, a mix of envy and hope. Lillian was a diva, draped in silk and diamonds. But to Jenna, she was a lighthouse against the storm. Just when Jenna thought she'd never escape her life of serving tables and counting pennies, fate intervened. The community held a charity event. Surrounded by the elite, glistening gowns and tailored suits, Jenna clutched her purse tightly, overwhelmed yet excited. When she caught a glimpse of Lillian across the room, Jenna felt an unexpected surge of courage. It was now or never. "Can you believe it?" Lillian said joyfully as Jenna approached hesitantly. They struck up a conversation that felt easy, like falling into a familiar rhythm. Night after night, they shared stories over cups of hot cocoa, bound by their own battles. Lillian spoke passionately about women finding their voice, a flame igniting within Jenna. But as their friendship deepened, the walls of class and privilege loomed large. Did she betray her family by connecting with Lillian? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension rose around Jenna, not just in town chatter but within her heart. Eviction stood at the door, and Lillian's case had become the talk of Maplewood. Each day more and more people voiced their support. Fraught with this impending choice, Jenna felt the stirrings of justice in her chest. Could she really stand by while Lillian fought for all women silenced by wealth? Just then, she overheard a hushed secret. Something about her father's past that twisted her stomach. The cracks in their family loyalty began to form, threatening to unravel everything she once cherished. The room buzzed with anticipation as the community gathered for a town hall meeting, ready to discuss Lillian's fate. Would Jenna summon the courage to confront her family's truths? And would that decision lead her into the light or deeper into despair? Anxiety twisted in her gut as she faced a future that hung in the balance, the moment of truth dangerously near. Jenna's heart raced as she entered the town hall, a sea of familiar faces staring back at her. The room was charged, every whisper echoing her own anxious thoughts. Mismatched chairs filled with townsfolk had transformed the space into a battleground for justice, and somehow she was caught in the middle. The air thickened as the mayor introduced the guest speaker, presenting Lillian as if she were a celebrity taking the stage. Jenna shifted in her seat, equally nervous and inspired. Lillian stood tall, her confidence radiating like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She began to speak about her journey, her decision to choose honesty over comfort, the fight against patriarchal silence. As Jenna listened, she felt every word settle like a balm over her troubled heart. Was this how one found their voice? Every woman's truth matters, Lillian claimed, her voice steady yet impassioned. We cannot allow fear to dictate our choices. The crowd murmured in agreement, some wiping away tears, as the very essence of Lillian's story seemed to infiltrate their hearts. Jenna could feel the magnetic pull toward Lillian's bravery. Yet as the applause filled the room, her own fears surged to the surface. She had watched her father struggle with secrets, wrestling with guilt over decisions that altered their family's fate. If she stood alongside Lillian, would she drag her father into the light, or would she shatter their fragile family bonds? Finally, with a rush of adrenaline, Jenna stood up, her chair scraping the floor loudly in the silence that followed. Eyes turned toward her, some filled with curiosity, others with disapproval. "I have something to say," she managed to voice, every syllable a judgment against herself, against the silence she'd known all her life. Lillian's gaze locked onto hers, a spark of encouragement in her eyes. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment she had longed for. What if the truth isn't just about Lillian? What if it's about us? Jenna's heart thundered as she spoke. "My family has its own secrets. We cry out for honesty. But honesty can hurt. When I hear Lillian's story, it makes me question everything. What if my father lost his job because he wouldn't play along?" Gasps rippled through the crowd, whispers blooming like wildflowers. "Please understand, I'm proud of where I come from. But family loyalty is costing us our dignity. I don't want to be a liar. No more lies." The room fell heavy with silence. Jenna's breath quickened, anxiety tightening around her chest. What had she just done? In her heart, she felt a flicker of hope. It was a tiny ember that grew warmer with each passing second. "Are you prepared to risk it all?" Lillian's steady voice broke the silence, pulling Jenna from her spiraling thoughts. The answer formed in Jenna's mind, but how could she put it into words? What if the truth just tore her family apart? But then again, what was the price of silence? She felt everyone's eyes waiting, the collective breath held in anticipation. I don't know," she finally said, the truth spilling forth. "But we need to confront the truth together." At that moment, Jenna understood that this wasn't just about Lillian or about herself. It was about a community yearning to speak its truth. And with every heart in that room beating for change, Jenna knew they were standing at a crossroads. Each choice laid before them, reshaping everything. As she stood there, exposed and vulnerable, Jenna caught Lillian's encouraging nod and felt renewed strength flow through her. But in the depths of her decision loomed uncertainty. Would embracing truth unite them or split them apart? And what other lies threatened to unravel her own family? With hope and fear battling inside, Jenna realized she had only just begun to understand the kind of courage it would take. The room hummed with energy, and as questions swirled in her heart, she pondered her next move. Would she dare to face her father, and the truth they had buried for so long? Jenna felt her pulse quicken as she glanced around the room. Sizing up the faces that had once been mere acquaintances, she now recognized them as allies in something larger. It felt surreal, standing there raw and unguarded, while Lillian's words echoed all around them. The weight of that moment pressed on her, and with every heartbeat she wondered what lay ahead. "Do you think you can handle it?" Lillian's voice broke through her thoughts again, steady and reassuring. "The truth can be overwhelming, but it's also liberating. You've taken the first step, Jenna. Don't back down." A thrill of empowerment shot through her, even as creeping doubt lingered. She took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of old wood and sweat mixed with anticipation. What if it tears everything apart? She hesitated, the words fumbling out. What if I damage my family beyond repair? Lillian's eyes softened. Change often feels destructive before it sets you free, but you can't hide their truth under the rug forever. Wouldn't you feel more at peace knowing where you stand? The crowd remained hushed, riveted, like they were waiting for the mountains to burst forth in song. Jenna's heart lifted, yet sadness coiled within her. She pictured her father's tired face, the way he forced a smile to hide the burdens he carried. The battle between loyalty and honesty raged in her mind. Suddenly, a voice sliced through the silence. "This is ridiculous. Is she really trying to pin her family's failures on her father?" A man in the back stood, arms crossed defiantly against his chest. Snickers bubbled from the sidelines, a wave of accusation riding beneath the laughter. Jenna felt the heat rise to her cheeks. This was it. This was the moment clarity would break. "I'm ashamed," she shouted, her voice quaking slightly but resolute. "I'm ashamed of being part of this community that lets fear control us. I'm not blaming my father. I want him to be free from his shackles." The snickers faded, replaced by a contemplative murmur. Lillian's nod of appreciation ignited resolve within Jenna, flooding her with renewed strength. "Fear has always held us hostage," Jenna continued, feeling bolder, every word coming quicker. "We bury the hurt and the truth, thinking it will protect us. But all it does is poison our spirits. I refuse to let that happen anymore. We need to share, not just our successes but our struggles too." The crowd seemed to absorb her clarity, realization surging like a tidal wave, pulling them closer to a collective decision. Lillian stepped forward, her expression a cocktail of pride and advocacy. "How about we embrace the discomfort together? Conversations might feel painful, but they're necessary. Jenna has sparked something important. We need a space for dialogue." Jenna nodded, feeling the connection weave through the room. Was there a singular truth, a pulsating heartbeat, beneath the confusion? The rawness of her words rang true, unraveling threads of fear woven tightly around them. Then a soft voice called out from the other side of the room. "But what if we can't handle it? What if the truth just hurts too much?" Jenna turned toward the source, a woman with kindness etched across her face, yet apprehension shadowed her eyes. "Then let's face it together," Jenna urged. "We can share the burden. Look at us. We're not alone." The atmosphere shifted, charged with possibility. An embrace of honest struggle began to form. Lillian looked at Jenna, a knowing smile breaking across her face. Just then, Jenna's phone buzzed in her pocket, a reminder of the world outside this charged room. She glanced down and froze, her heart dropping. The notification read, "Dad wants to meet. Alone." Panic surged, heart pounding against her ribs. Would she step into that meeting ready to confront everything she had just started? Could she walk away from this new emboldened self, ready to face the truth that had lived in the shadows of their home? Just as uncertainty gripped her, a voice chimed in. "What's truly at stake, Jenna? What will you choose?" Jenna took a deep breath, feeling the room pulse around her. She knew she had to decide. Facing her father would either build bridges or be a wrecking ball to everything she had known. And there she stood, on the brink of transformation, her heart racing, waiting for clarity. Jenna's mind spiraled as she stared at her phone. Her father. Alone. Just the thought sent icy fingers of dread skimming up her spine. She finally felt a connection here, a shared resolve among those who waited for her to lead. And now she had to meet her father, as if tomorrow would be just another day on the calendar. But nothing felt normal anymore. Lillian stepped closer, her presence a grounding force. "Jenna," she said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "No matter what happens, you need to be true to yourself. That's the most powerful weapon you have right now." "I don't know if I can do this," Jenna confessed, biting her lip as she scanned the room. Faces filled with understanding nudged her forward, but her own thoughts tugged her back. What if everything crumbled? Jenna inhaled deeply, as if that simple act could carry her fears away like a puff of smoke. She turned back to Lillian, who nodded, eyes wide and encouraging. "Just think about your dad. This meeting could be the key. He needs to hear you, just like everyone else here does." Yet knowing that truth brought her no comfort. The very idea of confronting her dad stirred a churning storm in her stomach. She had spent years trying to understand him, trying to piece together the man hidden behind the facade of stoicism and control. This was the man she loved, the dad who had carried her fears as if they were burdens tied to his own heart. How would he react to her awakening? As if sensing her distress, Lillian said, "You've already begun to challenge what you've always thought. You owe it to yourself to keep going. And perhaps your dad needs this just as much." With a shaky exhale, Jenna felt clarity begin to sharpen the edges of her vision. "You're right," she murmured, determination lacing her words as she clutched her phone tightly. "He deserves to hear the truth." A quiet solidarity wrapped around the room as she shared her apprehension. Jenna smiled at Lillian, and then at the others, who nodded, mentoring spirits willing to stay and witness her climb. They weren't alone in this. She felt their strength, lifting her like a wave. Her phone buzzed again, jarring her thoughts. "We meet in an hour," the message read. She swallowed hard. "I can do this." As she turned to walk toward the door, she hesitated. Would he even listen? No matter how much she longed for resolution, shadows of doubt clouded her mind. Would her father's heart even be open to the painful truth she was ready to unleash? "Wait!" A voice came from the back of the room. It was the woman who had initially expressed doubt. What if the truth hurts not just him but you too? Healing can be messy. Jenna took a breath, steadying herself. Messy or not, we must be brave. There's no way around it. With the eyes of her community behind her, Jenna stepped into the hall, a rush of cool air hitting her with a sense of urgency. Her heart raced with fear, yet she also felt a fire stirring within. She was stepping into the unknown, armed with the truth and the unwavering support of those who believed in the power of honesty. And though apprehension coursed through her veins, Jenna felt the ground shift beneath her. She was bound for something more than an empty conversation. With every step, she could sense change lurking, ready to break forth like a dam set to burst. What if her father was not just waiting to hear the truth, but also ready to share his own? What if everything they had buried beneath years of silence resurfaced, forever changing their bond? Jenna paused outside, heart pounding, breath hitching. It was now or never. Finally, the door loomed ahead of her. A gateway not just to her father, but to whatever truth lay hidden beneath their years of silence. What would she find on the other side? Would it solidify their relationship or fracture it entirely? Her breath caught as she reached for the handle, ready to take a leap into the unknown. With a trembling hand, Jenna gripped the door handle. The wood felt cool against her skin, grounding her just enough to steady her racing heart. She took a deep breath and opened the door, stepping into the small, sparsely furnished room. Her father sat in a chair looking older than she remembered. Time had etched lines on his face and dulled the once lively sparkle in his eyes. Now they were clouded over with uncertainty. He looked up as she entered, surprise flickering across his features, quickly replaced by a mask of composure. "Jenna," he said slowly, as if trying to choose the right words from a memory that felt distant. "Dad," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The moment hung between them, a fragile thread tethering their emotions. "Sit," he nodded, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. She obeyed, unwilling to break the fragile connection that seemed to pulse in the air around them. An awkward silence filled the space. Jenna could feel the weight of years piled on their shoulders, years marked by distant conversations and unaddressed wounds. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times, but now the words felt thick and stick in her throat. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice gruff yet filled with an undercurrent of concern. It was the question she dreaded answering, but it had to be done. I want to talk about us, about everything." Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. "About what I've learned." His brow furrowed, as if the very idea of opening old wounds filled him with dread. "Some things are better left alone, Jenna. You need to understand that. But if we don't face it now, we'll never move beyond it." She could feel the frustration rising in her chest. "I can't keep pretending that it's okay when it's not. We owe it to ourselves to be honest." He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His eyes darted sideways, avoiding her penetrating gaze. She pressed onwards, the heat of conviction igniting her words. "I know you've carried so much over the years." "Stop!" he snapped, the word cutting through the air sharply. Silence wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. Jenna recoiled slightly, her pulse quickening. He took a deep breath, lowering his voice. "You think it's that easy? You think pouring out the past will fix everything?" There was pain hidden in his tone, a wounded pride that made Jenna's heart ache for him. "I don't think it will fix everything," she countered, leaning forward. "But we can't heal if we're unwilling to confront the truth. I've spent too long wondering what really happened between us." His expression softened just a fraction, a flicker of that guarded man she knew beneath the surface. She suddenly feared that beneath that simmering anger lay vulnerability, the kind that opened doors they both had kept tightly locked. "What truth do you think you can uncover, Jenna?" he said, voice trembling. "What if you don't like what you find?" "What if I do?" she shot back, her heart pounding and her breath shallow. "What if we find a way to understand each other? What if it brings us closer?" As Jenna watched the internal struggle play across his face, she felt the tension snap within herself. The truth would break them, she could feel it. But perhaps it was a necessary shattering, a path to honesty that could rebuild something new. "I know this isn't easy, but I need you to trust me," Jenna said softly, reaching across the small table that felt too far between them. He hesitated, eyes flickering between anger and fear, hurt and hope. For a moment she thought she saw a crack in the armor he had worn for so long. "Please, let's just talk," she urged, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. As he finally exhaled, the decision hung in the air like a lightning bolt waiting to strike. Would he finally share his truth? Would their silence shatter to make way for the words they needed to say? What would happen if they were both brave enough to face the storm brewing between them? He took another deep breath, letting the tension hang a moment longer as he weighed her words. Jenna could see the conflict etched in every line of his brow, the tightness of his lips. She wanted to reach out and hold him, to somehow ease the burden of whatever it was he was carrying. But she knew this moment was about pushing through, not retreating. "All right," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Where do we start?" Jenna felt a rush of relief. "I guess we start with the past. What happened? Why did you leave?" As soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted the bluntness, but there was no turning back now. His gaze fell to the floor, and for a moment, the air around them thickened once more. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me," she interrupted. "I'm here. I'm not a kid anymore. I can handle it." He seemed to ponder her words for a long time. The silence felt outside of time, stretching endlessly. Finally, he looked up, but there was no longer the anger or resentment she expected. Instead, his eyes brimmed with something else, fear, perhaps, or regret. "It wasn't supposed to be this way," he began, his voice now wavering with uncertainty. "Your mother and I, we had dreams, plans. Then life took a different turn that none of us expected. I wasn't strong enough to face it." Jenna leaned in closer, her interest piqued despite the ache in her chest. "What do you mean?" His expression darkened, memories flashing across his face like shadows. "There were choices made. Decisions that, for a long time, I thought were right. I thought leaving was the solution. I thought it would protect you." "Protect me from what? From the truth?" she asked, frustration creeping back in. "You think hiding from it would save me? I needed you. I needed to know you were there, that you still cared." He flinched as if struck, the weight of her words sinking in. "I thought what?" Jenna's voice was rising. "That I wouldn't understand, that I'd be better off confused? Dad, all I've ever wanted is the truth." He clutched the arms of his chair, knuckles turning white as he wrestled with whatever internal demons had haunted him all these years. The moment felt fragile. There was a sense of urgency, an electric pulse in the air demanding action. "Fine," he said finally, his voice thick with pain. "It was because of me. Because I failed your mother. Because I wasn't the man I promised to be." Jenna's breath hitched, realization hitting her. His vulnerability was almost too much to bear. "And you truly believed that leaving was for the best?" "I thought I was sparing you both," he scoffed. "But all it did was cut us apart." Tears pricked at her eyes, but Jenna held them back. "We can talk about this, Dad. We can make sense of it together." He sighed. and for the first time the mask he had worn for years slipped away. It was like watching a dam break, emotions finally flooding out. I don't know if I can fix it, if I can ever make it right again. You don't have to fix it right now. Just talk to me, she pleaded. Let me help. Jenna felt the walls between them beginning to crumble, the fragile thread of connection finally tightening into something more tangible. Hope flickered in her chest, sparkled like a distant star, but as her father opened his mouth, she knew they were about to dive deeper into uncharted waters. The truth was a messy beast. What if some things are just too broken to repair? He whispered, his voice a mixture of defeat and yearning. Would this be the moment they found their way back to each other? Or was she opening a door to darkness that should have been left closed? His words hung in the air, heavy and laden with despair. Jenna's heart raced as she searched for something to say that would pierce the shell of his defeat, but nothing came. Instead, a swell of emotions crashed over her, stealing words and breath alike. She tried to meet his gaze, to offer comfort, but he looked everywhere but at her. Can we just start from the beginning? She suggested, her voice trembling with the weight of the request. Tell me how it all went wrong. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, a spark of determination flickered in the depths. It started long before I left. Your mother and I, we were in love, but we also had dreams that didn't align with reality. Life placed a heavy burden on our shoulders and I didn't know how to carry it. Jenna leaned further in, willing him to continue. You say you made decisions for me, for us. How was leaving a decision for me? Because I thought I was protecting you, he replied, voice cracking under the strain of the truth. But it was selfish, Jenna. I ran away. Instead of trying to fix what was broken, I chose to escape. His admission hit her like a wave crashing against jagged rocks. You thought running was the answer. She pressed softly, trying to keep her voice steady. You thought not being there would make everything better? He nodded slowly, each movement seeming to drain what little strength he had. I was a coward. I couldn't face the pain, the disappointment, and I thought if I just left, you could still have the life I felt unworthy to give you. The pain of his words pierced through her resolve. But you didn't see that your absence created more pain, Jenna said, her voice thickening. You thought you were protecting me, but you wounded me deeper by not being there at all. Silence filled the room, thick and oppressive as her father absorbed her words. It was a turning point, a gust of wind in the stillness. I believed I was making the right choice, he murmured, almost pleading. I didn't consider the consequences of not being there. Losing you, the moments we could have shared. I can see that now. Then let's try to make this right, Jenna said, her voice steadying. Let's not pretend the past didn't happen. Let's rebuild. He hesitated, eyes reflecting uncertainty. Rebuild? Are you sure? What if rebuilding means facing the ghosts I thought I could leave behind? Jenna reached out, placing a hand gently over his. It's the only way we can move forward. We can't erase the past, but we can honor it. We have to believe that even broken things can be mended. He looked at her, a flicker of hope breaking through the fog of regret. But it won't be easy. No, she agreed, squeezing his hand. Nothing worth having is easy. We need to share the load, face it all, together. I've spent too long longing for you, and I know deep down, you've longed for us too. Just then, a sound broke through the stillness. A distant siren echoed outside, cutting through the raw moment. It served as a reminder of the world beyond their walls. Jenna's heart quickened. Can we really do this? He asked, eyes searching hers for a sign of assurance. Can we really start anew? Absolutely, Jenna said, her voice stronger now. But we have to dive into the messy parts, confront the past together. We owe it to each other. He breathed in deeply, nodding, and Jenna felt a sense of relief wash over her. But with that relief came a realization. They had only begun to scratch the surface. As they moved closer, Jenna wondered if they were truly ready for the depths of the shadows that loomed over them. What would emerge as they began to unravel the threads of their shared pain? Would they find healing, or would the past drag them down further into darkness? The questions lingered in the air between them, heavy with unspoken fears and the flickering light of hope. Jenna felt the weight of uncertainty settle back in, and the room seemed to shrink around them. Her father's eyes were clouded with worry, the hope she had seen moments before slipping away again. There was a flicker of hesitation, as if he was weighing the cost of diving deeper into their shared history. "It wasn't just my decision to leave," he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your mother, she wanted a different life too. We both did. Maybe we were holding on to dreams that were just illusions. If I had stayed, maybe we wouldn't have been able to cope together anyway." His words struck her like a blow. "You mustn't deflect this onto her," Jenna insisted, frustration bubbling. "You made choices. One of the biggest was to walk away. We both needed each other even then." He rubbed his temples, clearly overwhelmed as he grappled with his past. "I know, and I've paid for those choices every day. But that thought of you, the joy in your laughter, those were the things that kept me going. I thought I could just let you go free of all the baggage." Jenna felt a tear slip from her eye. "But you didn't free me. You locked me in. I grew up without my dad. I learned to walk without you, to face the world alone." She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, anger mixing with sadness. "And it hurt." "I can't change what happened," he said, that familiar desperation creeping back into his voice. "I can only try to be better now, today." She nodded, but the intensity of the moment hung thick between them, like a noose tightening around her heart. "Tell me everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. Please. I need to understand why." He took a deep breath, and Jenna felt the electricity in the air shift as he leaned back in, pulling the weight of the past closer. He began to recount memories that felt foreign, both beautiful and painful, bursting with the love they once shared and the dreams that fell apart. "Telling you this feels like unearthing a grave, Jenna," he said, his voice trembling. "But I promise, I won't hide from it anymore." As he spoke, Jenna listened intently, resolved to hold space for the pain of their past. But it was also exhausting. With every new revelation, she felt the cracks in her own heart deepen. The moments he described seemed like scenes from a movie, each word threading together a life's worth of laughter, regret, and sorrow. Then he paused, and his expression shifted, as if he were standing on the edge of a cliff. There was a turning point. The night everything changed, when your mother said she was done trying. "What night?" Jenna interrupted, her heart pounding at the sudden tension in his voice. "What happened?" He flinched at her urgency but pressed on. "We had a fight. It's the last time I saw her before I left." He swallowed hard, as if the words were jagged stones stuck in his throat. "And there were things said that I wish I could take back. In that instant I thought of saving not just myself but the both of you. But instead I just lost everything." Jenna gripped his hand more tightly, her breath hitching in her throat. "What were those words?" she urged, desperate to piece together the puzzle of their broken family. "What did she say?" His eyes were glossed over, brimming with unspent tears. "I told her the truth. I was scared. Scared of failing you both. And she said I was already a failure by leaving." The air around them shifted again, heavy with the revelation. Jenna squeezed his hand tighter, the truth clawing at her. Fear, betrayal, and longing all braided together in her chest, making it hard to breathe. They were still standing in the ruins of their past, and the deeper they dug, the more she feared what would be revealed. "What if those words shattered her?" Jenna whispered, her voice breaking. He closed his eyes as though bracing himself against a storm. "Then I guess, Jenna, we'll have to find out together, because we can't move forward without knowing the truth." As he spoke, a chilling thought crossed her mind. Could they truly handle what waited in the shadows? Would the truth be a balm for their wounds, or yet another weapon that could tear them apart? They stood on the threshold of their past, and the next words could unravel or rebuild them. What more was hidden in darkness, waiting to be uncovered? Jenna's heart raced, a mix of anticipation and trepidation swirling in the air. Each tick of the clock felt amplified, a drum of doubt echoing in her ears as she waited for her father to decide how to share the truths that had remained buried too long. "Before I left," he said, finally opening his eyes. His gaze bore into hers, searching for understanding, perhaps even forgiveness. "We had dreams of a family, a home filled with laughter. But reality was different. I needed to escape before I felt like a burden." "Running away didn't fix anything," Jenna replied sharply, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "You let it all fall apart. You let us fall apart." "I know," he said, a deep sorrow laden in his voice. "That's what keeps me up at night, the weight of what I did, or didn't do." His words hung between them like a tightrope they were both afraid to cross. Jenna could feel the urge to recoil, to slip back into her fortress of anger and hurt. But there was something incandescent in his tone, a flicker of vulnerability pushing her forward. "Tell me about that night," she urged, her own heart aching with the effort of not letting her walls close back in. "What was it really like?" He licked his lips, the air thickening with unspoken fears. "We fought like we never had before." I remember her eyes, so full of rage, yet so heartbroken. She had every right to be angry. But he stopped, his breath hitching. "What I said made everything worse. I told her I didn't think we could have a future. I was scared, Jenna. Scared of being a terrible husband, a failing father. I thought it would be easier to walk away." Jenna's breath caught. The burden of his confession pressed on her chest. "And you thought it was better for us to just disappear?" "Yes!" he exploded, the frail mask of control shattering in an instant. "Yes, I thought I was protecting you both, but all I did was leave behind a mess." Jenna sank into the moment, trying to comprehend what he was admitting. A mixture of pity and pain washed over her, igniting the flickering hope that perhaps he was willing to finally confront the past, rather than run from it. "You left her alone with that pain," she murmured. "You could have fought for us, for her." "I should have," he replied, tears pooling in his eyes. "And that hurt me more than you can imagine. I lost everything that night. The woman I loved, the family we could have been. And when I went, I thought I was liberating you from what I believed was a sinking ship." Silence settled over them, thick and suffocating. Jenna wanted to scream, to shake him until he saw the extent of the pain his choices had wrought. But deep inside, she understood a flicker of what he must have felt. The weight of fear folded into every moment of turmoil. "Does she know how much you really regretted it?" Jenna asked, the question releasing itself from her lips before she could stop it. She had to know if her mother ever felt any closure from the man who had shattered their little world. His expression shifted, sorrow translating into realization. "I can't be sure," he whispered. "I never told her, and once I left, I lost my chance. I don't know if she ever found peace." A chill swept through Jenna, leaving her grappling with 1,000 emotions at once: anger, pity, fear, and now a smattering of compassion toward the man who had been absent for so long. As they lingered in the remnants of those moments, Jenna wondered if confronting this truth might guide them toward healing, or if it would tear them further apart. The heaviness of possibility weighed on her chest, and the lingering question gnawed at her. Could the echoes of past mistakes morph into a foundation for a new beginning? Or would the depths of hidden truths push them away forever? "What if uncovering the truth only deepens the fractures?" she whispered, almost to herself. Her father met her gaze, uncertainty etched on his features. The dawning realization was evident. The moment of reckoning was approaching. Would they have the strength to embrace whatever came next, or would what lay ahead be their undoing? Jenna took a deep breath, the tension in the air thick like fog. They were deep in it now, standing at the precipice of their shared pain. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, and she felt the weight of all that had been left unsaid wrap around them. "Dad?" she started, her voice steady. "The truth is scary. It's like walking into a dark room without knowing what's waiting for you. But sometimes that's the only way to find the light." Her father shifted in his chair, and she could see the wheels turning in his mind, processing the gravity of her words. "I get it, Jenna. I do. I've lived in that darkness for so long, but I fear that the light might burn too bright, and we won't be able to handle it." "No more fear," Jenna said, determination clear in her tone. "We have to allow ourselves to feel this pain. Only then can we heal and move forward." His eyes, once clouded with uncertainty, were now filled with a mix of regret and desperation. If they were going to break the cycle of silence, they had to take responsibility for their decisions. "What if I'm too late?" he whispered, vulnerability bleeding into his words. Jenna reached across the table again, her hand covering his. "It's never too late. The past doesn't have to define us, but we need to own it to move on." A moment hung between them, heavy with the potential for change. Finally, he nodded slowly. "You're right. It was my decision to leave, and I need to own up to that. I thought running would protect you from the truth, but all it did was poison our bond." "Yes, that's what I needed to hear," Jenna exclaimed, leaning forward, her heart racing. "It hurt when you left. It hurt when you thought hiding from the truth would make things better. We can learn from our mistakes. We just need to be brave enough to face them." Her father's eyes glistened, the walls he had built around his heart beginning to crumble. "I know there's no excuse for what I did. Leaving you both was cowardly. I should have fought for you." Tears pooled in Jenna's eyes. "You did what you thought was best for us, but that doesn't lessen the pain." "My pain." He nodded, visibly wrestling with his regret. "I see that now. I should have been stronger. I should have been there. I lost sight of what mattered most." A comfortable silence settled over them, thick with unspoken words that had finally been cracked open. Jenna could feel the fragile thread of connection slowly strengthening between them. "What if revealing everything to your mother could have changed the course of our lives?" he asked, his voice low as if admitting a long-held secret. "Then let's not repeat the same mistakes," Jenna urged. "Let's be open with each other this time. Let's talk about how we can move forward together." As if the act of speaking the words had released a pressure valve, her father leaned back, emotion spilling from him like an uncontained river. "Jenna, I want to be in your life now. I want to rebuild what we lost. But I need to face the very truth that pushed me away." Her heart sparked with hope. "Then let's do it. Let's face it together. And let's not stop until we've faced every fear, every regret." A palpable sense of determination filled the room. There, in that tiny space, they began to forge a new path, a bond that could withstand the storms, just as it had allowed them to navigate the darkness. "Can we make it work?" he asked, searching her gaze. "Yes," she nodded fervently. "I believe we can, together." As they held on to that moment, Jenna felt the weight of the past start to shift, allowing room for something new, something powerful, something full of promise. The light they sought no longer seemed out of reach. Beyond the shadows lay a future they could create. They both stood, feeling the resolve pulse through their veins like electricity. In that instant, the worries faded, replaced by a unified heartbeat, a rhythm echoing through their shared resolve. "What happens next?" he asked, a hint of uncertainty still lingering in his voice. "We start small," Jenna said, her voice steadier than before. "We talk regularly. No more burying feelings. We address those fears. We hold each other accountable." His gaze softened, and she could see the corners of his mouth turn upward slightly. "A new beginning, then?" "Absolutely," she smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. "And each day, we'll build it together, word by word." As they embraced, Jenna felt a warmth fill the space between them, a promise of healing and hope. They were two people, once bound by silence, now ready to write a new chapter, hand in hand. With each step into the light, they closed the door on the past, choosing instead to walk forward with intention and courage. It was a small shift, but enough to change everything. And as they stood together, Jenna silently vowed to carry this new lesson into every corner of her life, igniting courage wherever she went. You have to face the truth. Only then can you turn the page and embrace whatever comes next. If Jenna's journey inspired you, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Drop a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this life-changing transformation. Plus, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful message of courage. Don't wait, not even one more second, to support the channel and keep the stories flowing.